Hello and welcome to lesson 1-7. This lesson is titled Look for and Use Structure. So look for patterns and structure that you see in problems to help you find the answers. Let's go ahead and watch our video lesson, and then we can jump into our notes and our guided practice together.
How can you use structure to solve problems? Think about this question during the lesson. Analyze the chart. What do you notice that can help you complete the chart? What do you need to do to solve this problem?
In order to solve this part of the question, we're going to take a look at what we have available to us already. So here we know that there are a couple numbers that are in order next to each other, and there's a couple numbers that are directly above and below each other. So we're going to take a look at the patterns that we see. This is 100th, 200th, 300th. So far these are adding 100th each time. So it makes sense that what's going to come next is 400th, 500th. So this just looks like a regular hundreds chart, but using decimals. Now, we know this is true, and we can confirm this by looking at the numbers that are underneath the 100th. This is 1100ths. This is 2100ths. This under here is going to be 3100ths because after it is 3200ths. Then we can guess that 3300ths will be here and 3400ths. So you're looking for a pattern that you see available in the numbers. Use the clues that are already laid out for you in different spots. So you can see all the numbers that are listed next to each other are moving 100th at a time. All the numbers that are stacked above each other, like in order from top to bottom, are moving from top to bottom by adding 1/10 to each one of those numbers.
Use the structure of the decimal place value system to complete the chart.
You can look for patterns to find the missing numbers.
Ask yourself, how can I make use of structure to solve this problem? I can find and describe patterns. I can use the patterns to see how the numbers are organized. I can analyze patterns to see the structure in the table. I can break the problem into simpler parts. How many rows and columns does the chart have?
Select your answer.
So here we can see, remember the rows go across, so there's 4 rows, and columns always go up and down. So there's 10 columns. So 4 rows and 10 columns.
4 rows and 10 columns. What do you notice about the numbers in the chart? The numbers increase from left to right and top to bottom. Here's my thinking. As you move down the columns, tenths increase by 1, while hundredths stay the same. Moving from left to right in the rows, tenths stay the same except for the last number, while the hundredths increase by 1. You can use the pattern to complete the chart. Try it yourself.
All right, now that we've figured out how to use structure and patterns to help us solve problems, let's take a look at our notes and guided practice so we can apply that to our lesson. So 1-7, look for and use structure. How can you use structure to solve problems? So just like we said, find and describe patterns, use the patterns to see how numbers are organized, analyze the patterns to see the structure in that table that we just saw, and then break the problem into smaller and simpler parts. Let's take a look at our first example here. It says Angie volunteers in the school library. The librarian gave her a stack of books with numbers to return to the shelves. How can she arrange the books in order from least to greatest? So the book numbers we have listed across here, 323 and 202 thousandths, 323 and 13 hundredths, 323 and 21 hundredths, 323 and 233 thousandths, and 323 and 17 hundredths. So the first thing I'm going to do, always, is stack them and line up the numbers in order of place value so you can compare. So these decimal points are all going to line up on top of each other, and you're going to fill in the numbers and keep them in place value order. Now here, because I'm using graph paper, it was easy for me to just put one number into each box. It keeps them nice and neat and separated. Now, one thing I can see immediately, my hundreds place, my tens place, and my ones place in all of my numbers is the same. So I can't compare using those because those parts are equal. What I'm going to use to compare are the numbers that come after the decimal place. So my tenths place, or my first number in my after the decimal point, are all either ones or twos. Now she wants to put the books in order from least to greatest. So let's focus on the ones that have a 1 in the 10th place and leave the one with the 2 in the 10th place for later. So if they both have a 1 in the 10th place, now I'm going to go and I'm going to compare the number in the hundredths place. So this one has a 3 in the hundredths place and the other one has a 7 in the hundredths place. Now we know 3 is less than 7. So I know that my smallest number and my second smallest number are already figured out. So 323 and 13 hundredths is the smallest. After that is going to be 323 and 17 hundredths. So now I'm going to focus on comparing my bigger numbers. Those are the ones that had the 2 in the 10th place. So I have a 2 in all of their 10th places. So I'm going to look at the hundredths place. One of them has a 0 in the hundredths place, one has a 1 in the hundredths place, and one has a 3 in the hundredths place. So these I can already put in order. Now, because these are different, I do not need to look at anything that comes after it, because anything that comes after it has a smaller value, so it doesn't matter. Now, to put them in order, I know that the biggest one has a 3 in the hundredths place, the middle one has a 1, and the smaller one has a 0. So remember, I already figured out my two smallest numbers, 323.13, 323.17. Then I have 323.202, or 202 thousandths, 323 and 21 hundredths, and then 323 and 233 thousandths. So now I was able to order them from least to greatest. So if you look at just the numbers that come after the decimal point, we have a 13, a 17, a 202. This would be 210 if I wanted to put a 0 in that placeholder, and then a 233. All right, let's take a look at another example. It says fill in the missing numbers by looking for a pattern and analyzing the structure. So this is very similar to the example we saw in the video. You take a look at the numbers that are already there and figure out what numbers are missing. So we can see that across, it's adding a hundredth each time. And moving from top to bottom, it's adding a tenth each time. So this way, we were able to fill in the missing numbers and continue our chart all the way across. Now for our guided practice. So this is following something very similar to like a hundreds chart, but they're only giving you some of the squares. So describe the pattern moving from a pink square to a green one, and then write the missing numbers. So on the left side is the one that they already gave you, 0.55 or 55 hundredths. If you go down one and across one, you get to 66 hundredths. From the next pink one to the green one, 75 hundredths, 86 hundredths. So to go from 75 to 86, you're adding a tenth and a hundredth. So you're adding 11 hundredths. So moving across, we can see if we're going to jump from pink to pink to pink and then green to green, 55 hundredths, 75 hundredths, 95 hundredths. So you see that there's a blank area in between. We're jumping over that blank area, so we're adding 2 tenths each time. To go from green to green, we're adding, again, 2 tenths each time. So 66 hundredths down to 86 hundredths. Now this other side of the table is what they were asking us to fill out. So from 32 hundredths down to 43 hundredths. So we added 11 hundredths. From 52 hundredths to 63 hundredths again. So we're adding a tenth and a hundredth, adding a tenth and then a hundredth. So just like a hundredths chart, each number below it's 10 more than the one above it, and each number to the right is 1 more than the one before it. So if I was going from 1 to 12, so I'm adding 10 plus 1 more. 1 plus 10 is 11, plus 1 more is 12. If I'm going from 12 to 23, I'm adding 10 plus 1 more, so I'm adding 11. And number 2, how can you use patterns to find the number that comes below 52 hundredths? So we know that each number as you move down is adding a tenth to the one above it. So below 52 hundredths is going to be 62 hundredths. And then under that is the 72 hundredths, and it would continue onward. That's it for this lesson. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.